everyone, it's Autumn. Today I wanted to do my Friday favorites for you. I haven't done these in a while, but if you remember, my Friday favorites aren't necessarily the things that I've been loving that week because I do a monthly favorites. I just feel like instead of telling you about a ton of stuff that I've just been using that week, it just makes more sense to me to kind of narrow it down and have a small amount of things at the end of the month after I've had quite a bit of time to be using them. So with that being said, my Friday favorites are usually like categories, and I decided like for the next month, or at least the next 3 weeks, I have a couple different categories going to talk about my drugstore favorites. And the reason that I had wanted to really get on this and talk about it was because I had like a short sort of conversation on Instagram with Andy from the Techno Cupcake and Samantha from Lipstick Lady 518, and they were kind of talking about how they're over the drugstore, and which for the most part I am too, and I'll tell you why. Like, yes, there are great products at the drugstore, but the thing is there are no testers out, so you have to like sort through everything, and you actually have to purchase it to try it, and then you feel guilty for returning something that costs like $5. It's just kind of like, what's the point? And then I end up purging a ton of stuff that doesn't work for me. So a lot of people had like noticed in the past, which I really cut back on my drugstore purchasing because of that. But when I first started doing my purging videos, people were like, I noticed that most of this is drugstore. And it's not because I'm one of those people that's just like, I have to hold on to all high-end items just because high-end is better. That's not really the case. It's when I go to buy a high-end item, I get to swatch it and see. And sometimes, yes, I'll order blindly online, get a high-end item that I'm just like, this isn't very good, and I end up purging that as well. But for the most part, a lot of the stuff that I was getting rid of were drugstore. So with that being said, there are tons of things that I found at the drugstore. Well, not tons. I don't have very much drugstore in my collection anymore. But what I do have is really good. So some of the stuff I'm just trying to use up, and it is in my 100 pan. And then there's some items that I'm just going to repurchase because I think they're great. So a lot of people, when they think about things being awesome quality at the drugstore, the first thing that comes to mind is pigmentation. I'm not one of those people. I don't want something that's overly pigmented. However, I want it to be smooth. So I don't mind if it's a sheer pigment as long as it blends smoothly, if that makes any sense. I don't want something that's going to have like crazy hard pan where I can't get it onto my face, but I feel like there are tons of drugstore items that have like high-end textures. So this isn't really a dupe video, but these are drugstore items that perform like high-end makeup. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm gonna start out with is a primer, and just by the way, I'm wearing most of these things that I'm talking about on my face today. I'll let you know what I'm wearing, and I am wearing this. And this is the L'Oreal Magic Lumi Light Infusing Primer. Now it comes out and it's kind of like a pearl. I'll put a little bit, kind of like a pearl sort of texture. It looks very white. You can kind of see that. And then you rub it out, and if you keep it like this, it's very pearl. But I will do a pump and I will apply it all over my face. And then you can kind of see when it's kind of spread out like it would be all over my face, it just gives a nice healthy glow to the skin. So I will apply it all over the face before I put on my foundation. And this primer isn't one of those that like makes your makeup last forever. Honestly, I don't really put much stock into those primers. Those usually break me out. They're very silicone based. A lot of people love them, but I don't really feel like I have much need for a primer if my skin is prepped and moisturized anyway. So this is just enough to put like some light into your skin. So I have this all over, and I absolutely love it. But you can also mix this in with your foundation if you want something, you know, just to kind of do it that way instead of covering it up with foundation, which I use I would say like a medium coverage foundation, which I'll talk about in a minute, but I don't usually go for full-on foundations. And the reason for that is because I tan very easily. I just have one of those complexions, but I get really light in the winter. And I also use self-tan and things like that. And when my skin is really good, even when it's bad, I use like a light to a medium foundation just because I feel like I want my skin to be able to breathe, and I can cover anything with a good concealer and just kind of cover what needs to be covered. So this is really good for mixing in with your foundations if you also just kind of want to have like that skin-like appearance, because a lot of full coverage foundations kind of err on the matte side as well, which makes your skin look flat. So this is really good to add into those as well. Or you can apply it on the top of the cheekbones, which I didn't do that today, but I'll talk about the other product. But this works great for that, and I've done it before, and it's gorgeous. So it applied on top of the cheekbones. I would actually compare the effect very close to the RMS Living Luminizer. That's more moisturizing. It has like a coconut sort of, it's like a coconut oil base, I believe. So it actually has like a dewy effect. This kind of dries down and it doesn't feel moisturizing or anything. So I think even if you have oily skin, you could still get away with this if you used other things to mattify the skin, but you still wanted that glow. So absolutely love this. I think it's perfect. It does kind of err on the higher end in pricing. I think it's like around $15 at the drugstore. But when you compare it to higher end products in the pricing, I think it's on the low range, especially as well as it performs in as many uses as you can use it for. The foundation that I want to talk about is also a L'Oreal product, and it is the True Match Lumi. I have two different shades here because these are the both that I used today. I used one pump of each, and I have N12 and N4. And that's just what I've used today. That's, you know, what matched me. I like this because it makes my skin still look and feel like skin. It blends beautifully. And I don't know if you can tell or not, but it just, you can't detect it on the skin. If you use, like, I only use 2 pumps for my entire face. I'm sure if you were to really put on a ton of it, yes, you would be able to see it. But I don't see it on my skin once it's on, just because I don't use a ton of it. But I think that this stuff is just really good. It helps to even out the skin tone. And it just feels great. It has a little bit of SPF, which SPF 20, I haven't actually tried to use it in flash photography, but that might be something to look out for. But I just feel like this performs like the high-end foundations that I've purchased, just because you don't detect it and it feels good on the skin, and this wears very well for me. I've gone through several bottles of this, and I would have to say this is probably my favorite drugstore foundation. A lot of people prefer like the CoverGirl ones, and those made me look like I had cake face. I didn't like any of them. And then the Revlon Nearly Naked, a lot of people were talking about that one, and that one also made me, you could see it on my skin. So this is like the only one at the drugstore that I've tried so far that I've used a lot that is undetectable on the skin. So I have quite a few concealers from the drugstore that I really enjoy, and the reason I have so many is because concealers are one of those things that I absolutely love, but I feel like there are several different uses for each concealer. Some people like to kind of highlight their face with them, then you use them on your under eyes, or you just want to brighten the under eyes instead of covering something up, or you want to cover a blemish or anything like that. So I kind of have several different concealers for these things, and I'm going to start out with the ones that kind of just help to brighten the under eyes, or brighten the under eyes or brighten the face. They don't cover a lot, but the texture is really nice and they still look like skin. And the first one is the Neutrogena Healthy Skin Brightening Eye Perfector, and this just kind of seems to brighten up the eye area. I have the shade Fair, which I should have had a darker one to be able to use and show you today. I didn't use it today. Here, let me put this one down. But to show you on the skin, it has a clicky pin. It feels very substantial and sturdy, and I'll just kind of put some out here for you. It's very brightening. And here it is, and it just looks like skin. It doesn't crepe under the eyes. It doesn't feel gross. It just makes your skin feel healthy. I guess that's the best thing, and that's the thing that I focus on. Everybody's different, so these things perform like high-end products to me. I like to nourish the skin, and I like things to look very dewy, so a lot of these products may not work for you on that. But anyway, it just looks beautiful. It's undetectable. It doesn't settle into the lines on my hand either. And that's also something that like you would get with a lot of different concealers. I would actually compare this to, see how it's lighter than my skin, but I would compare this to the quality of the Clinique Airbrush Concealer, and I will, yeah, the quality looks the same. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that, but if you have this and you really like it, try this out. It's not going to cover a lot. You need a corrector for that, but these are just kind of meant to brighten. After you correct and you don't want to put something heavy on the under eyes, that's what these are for. You can also like run them down the middle of the face and things like that to kind of just bring certain features forward. So that's what I would suggest using these for. And then the last one is the, well, the last one for this effect is the Physicians Formula Nude Wear Touch of Glow Nude Glow Concealer. This only comes in one shade, and it's too dark for me in the winter, so that really stinks, but I've been using the heck out of it this summer. It's actually almost gone for me. And here it is, and it still has like the same effect. I wish that they made different shades of this because the texture is really nice, and it just feels really good under the eye. So highly suggest this one as well if your skin is like, I would say light medium to medium, but because it's actually almost a little bit light for me now that I'm this dark, but in the winter time this is just way too dark for the under eye area. And then I have this one, which I've used on blemishes and I've used on the under eye. I think it's, which actually the rest of them that I'm about to show you I've used on blemishes and the under eye. This is the L'Oreal True Match, and this comes with like a brush applicator, and this is pretty full on coverage. So you can cover blemishes with it, you can cover the under eyes, and if you can kind of see here, I don't know how well you can see this stuff, but the coverage of it is pretty severe. So you kind of have to like kind of pat it out. I wouldn't go overboard with applying it because then you're going to have like that blank sort of like mime face. But the coverage of it is really good to where if you had a color that matched your skin just right, I think that this would be perfect for covering blemishes or covering like the dark circles in here in, you know, the corner of the eye and things like that, and you can kind of just pat it out. The texture's still really nice, so it's not cakey or dry if you don't overdo it, and a little bit does go a long way, so I think this is really nice. And then same with these. I have them in all of these colors. So I don't like to go in for full on coverage makeup. I have seen people use these to kind of highlight the face, like I mentioned with the airbrush sort of concealers, and they go through and they highlight different areas of the face. I don't like doing that with these because I don't like full coverage foundation, and I find that these give full coverage and it's just a bit heavy for me. But these, again, I love them. I have them in all these colors. This is the color I am right now, which is 25 medium, and then I have it all the way to 10 light. So this is pretty much the range in coloring. Or which one's lighter? Oh, actually this one seems lighter, which is 15 fair. But this is pretty much the color range that my skin goes through. But I use these under the eyes. I have also like mixed it a little bit with moisturizer before as a sort of foundation because the coverage is so good, but the texture is so nice as well. People have compared these to the NARS, what is it? I don't know, Radiant Creamy Concealer. I've never owned that, so I can't say, but these just have beautiful texture, beautiful pigment. There's a variety of colors, and they're super inexpensive. They're around like $5 or $6, which is super affordable. So I've gone through several of them. The shade that I purchased the most is actually the 20 Sand, and this is like my in-between sort of color. It gets way too dark for me in the winter, and then I usually replace it with the 10 Light and stuff like that. And then the 15, what is this, Fair, this kind of leans a little bit pink, so I'll use it to brighten the under eye area and things like that. So there are really tons of different uses for these, and they're super, super nice, so I highly suggest them. So I have one powder to mention, and I mentioned that I did not like the Revlon Nearly Naked foundation, that it just kind of felt really cakey on my skin, didn't look good, none of that. But their powder is actually quite nice, and again, this is the Revlon Nearly Naked powder. Like, I don't think it really matters, but I have the shade Fair. I feel like these powders run a little bit dark. You see in here, like, it looks super light, and then just from my brush kicking it over here, you can see that it darkens a little bit. So that's something to look out for. But this is just a very silky, smooth powder. It's undetectable once it's on the skin, and it doesn't cake up. You can actually, this is even fine enough to set your under eyes, and it doesn't settle into pores. So I like to actually, I'll do some now. It's probably a little bit light for my skin right now, but I also like to just kind of put it right in here, and it just helps to kind of blur out the pores. I'm not sure if you can see a difference between these two areas now. So it mattifies a little bit, but it just really helps to blur things, and it really is undetectable. So it's a super nice powder. And I'll just take it under the eyes. I don't think I powdered my under eye today. So it's a super nice powder and it just feels really good on the skin. So I think if you were looking for a good powder on a budget that's not going to add coverage, but it's going to help to mattify a little bit, not make you too matte, but also help to blur things, this is just the perfect powder. I'm not really a powder person. I don't own a ton of them. But if I had to compare the texture and the way this goes on the skin, it's actually very comparable to my new favorite. Oh, it's right here. The NARS Soft Velvet Loose Powder. I would compare these. I feel like this has a little bit more of like a skin reflective quality to it. But I feel like the textures are spot on where they're not cakey and they're just super nice. So this is a really good alternative, and I think this is, unless the drugstore comes out with something crazy, this is the only one that I'll repurchase. Every other one from the drugstore I've just given away because I hate drugstore powders, but this one is super nice. I accidentally left out one concealer, and this is my favorite concealer that's in a stick form to cover up blemishes or anything like that on the skin, and this is the Revlon Photo Ready Concealer. And it's just super creamy, again, not cakey. I feel like I say that about all of these, but that's probably why I like them the most. And it blends beautifully and it stays put. So this is really good stuff. And again, it's pretty inexpensive. And I feel like if you're looking for a good stick concealer, this is the way to go. It's not too heavy for the under eyes, but again, I like something a little bit lighter, so I usually just kind of gravitate towards the airbrush sorts of concealers. But I have used this in the under eyes without any issues before. But what I like this the most for is on the face, especially if I have a little bit of redness around the nose. I'll pat it in there or cover up some blemishes with it, so this is very nice for that. So I feel like drugstore blushes go one of two ways, where they either have super hard pan, they don't show up on the cheeks, or they're like, they're too textured, they're not finely milled, or they're kind of pigmented like a lot of people want, but then they're just kind of like flat where they don't look like skin, to where you end up looking like you have like Aunt Sally cheeks, if that makes sense, like bright red or dark cheeks that don't blend in with the skin. So I find that drugstore blushes are kind of like usually not so good. I don't have a lot to talk about, but there is one that I absolutely love, and I don't own very many drugstore blushes anymore. Like I mentioned, I just get rid of most of them. But these are the Revlon blushes, and they redid their formula, which their old formula was nice too, and I had some of those and I really enjoyed them. But when they redid the formula and they came out with these, I feel like these are just like awesome. They remind me a lot of, I would say, the NARS blushes, to where they kind of feel hard in the pan, and but not like super hard, but then like you apply them and it's like magic on the cheeks. And they don't swatch very well, but I will swatch them for you. But I have 3 shades that I want to talk about, and I have Naughty Nude, Oh Baby Pink, and Melon Drama. And so with these, again, like I was talking about how a lot of people equate like high-end stuff to pigment. And to me, when I'm doing stuff on the cheeks, I want to be able to build the color, but I don't want it to look patchy. And a lot of these high pigment things, like a lot of people go on about the Wet n Wild blushes, to me those look patchy and they're so pigmented that you have to really work to blend them out. These are actually very smooth. This is Melon Drama, and then the brushes aren't that bad. If you've ever used like the Chanel blush brushes, these are kind of similar to those, like not the ones you buy, but the ones that come in the thing, to where you can still apply. I use these. And I think they're really nice because they're not super, they're not packed too dense to where it just gives a really nice effect on the cheek. But these, it's very evenly distributed pigment. It's very smooth. They're buildable if you want a lot of color. So here is Melon Drama. And if I just like really dug in there, like you don't have to, but there's a little bit more. It just, so as you can see, it's very buildable if you want that. But I find that it blends so much better with other products. And I feel like people are so lost in the fact that things, they want pigment, they want pigment. But I want stuff that's not going to look patchy on the skin, and stuff that's going to like obviously blend with everything, and it's buildable to where I don't actually have to like work forever to blend it out. And these are just the best for that. So that's Melon Drama, and then this is Oh Baby Pink, and I'm actually wearing Oh Baby Pink today under something else I'll show you in a second. So then there is Oh Baby Pink. And then this last one's kind of my favorite. I feel like it just gives a little extra something to the skin. And then this is in Naughty Nude. And it's obviously on the more shimmery side, but they're just so smooth and beautiful, and they apply to the skin so well. So they're not one of those that swatch out great that you're going to look at and be super impressed, but the texture of these is just really nice. And I never hear anybody talk about these, and I think that's because everybody's like, oh, these Wet n Wild blushes are so great, but those are just like a hot mess once you get them on the face. So yeah, I just feel like these look so natural and beautiful. And then so the next item is a blush and a highlight at the same time, and I think this was a limited edition color. I don't know if the other colors are this good, but I'm going to go ahead and mention this. And this is the Maybelline Master Highlighting Blush, and this is in the shade 10 Nude. And here it is. So it's got a really cute design, kind of like a Bobbi Brown shimmer brick. And then it can be a highlighter on somebody with deeper skin, but I have this on my cheek today over the Oh Baby Pink. And then here is what it looks like. But it's just gorgeous. The texture is really nice. It doesn't have like a lot of glitter in it. And that's just what I like. It's just like a really nice natural glow. It blends beautifully, so it's really nice. Now the packaging, not so great because it's kind of clunky, and you get this brush in the back, which, unlike the Revlon brushes, what are you going to do with this? But I really do enjoy the actual product itself. I think it's beautiful. And let me just blend it out a little bit to where you can kind of, yeah, just gorgeous. So I highly suggest those blushes. I think that I may like pick out some other colors of those, both of those blushes at some point, because I feel like they're really, really nice. So I have one highlighter to talk about, and it's from Sonia Kashuk, which they have like bronzers and all kinds of things, and I've gone through the brand quite a bit, and there's a few things that I've purged. I didn't think they were good, and then some things that I think are just really awesome. And this is the Sonia Kashuk, like I mentioned, and this is their Chic Luminosity highlighter stick, and this is in like sparkling sands. So they have two different shades. I think they have a more pinky version as well. And this is very similar to the Benefit What's Up. And you get a ton of product for the money. So this is how much product you get. This is what I have on my cheeks as a highlighter today. It's kind of like a cream to powder formula, but it doesn't look powdery once it's on the skin. It just melds into the skin, and it's beautiful. So here is a full-on swatch, and by the way, I think the color is perfect. So it's not glittery, it's not chunky, it's just like a glow stick. And then I'll kind of spread it out, and as you can see, it's just like natural glow. And then let me swatch it next to, what did I do with the What's Up? So here's Benefit What's Up, and there it is. It's like the full-on glow. And again, it swatches out to the same thing. So I think that, I don't think they're full-on color dupes. Let me do head-on, like, this isn't really a dupe video, it's like a texture video, mostly, I guess. Yeah, if you are fair and Benefit What's Up is not, is a little bit too dark. I know how some people talk about how they need something really light, like Tarababyz talks about that quite a bit, how she needs something very light to kind of lift the cheek, and a lot of things are too dark. The Chic Luminosity stick is a little bit lighter than the Benefit What's Up. Benefit What's Up seems to have a little bit more of like a peachy tone to it. But here they are side by side. Sorry for the awkward angle. So here is the What's Up, and then here is the Sonia Kashuk. But they just both blend out the same. They're very beautiful highlights. So if you're looking for a stick highlighter that's beautiful and dewy on the skin at a budget, I think this is like $10.99. So again, a lot cheaper than, I think this is around $30 for the full size. So I have two bronzers to talk about, and they're both from Physicians Formula. I know that Milani has a lot of really nice bronzers, which I only have two of the limited edition ones, so I'm not going to talk about those, which I do like them, and I think the texture is really nice, but I don't want to talk about something that's limited edition. Or compare it to what their regular line is, just because I don't have any from the regular line. But I have the Physicians Formula, and this is the Airbrushing Bronzing Veil, and this is the Light to Medium Bronze Booster. And I find this is very similar to the Hourglass. Okay, so I find that the texture, I'm not going to say it's a color dupe, but I find that the texture is very similar to the Hourglass powder, and it has the very same effects as Radiant Light. So Radiant Light is obviously a little bit lighter, but once you kind of spread them out, exact same effect. But anyway, I like to use it to kind of marry my, I don't contour, but like my darker bronze and my highlighter and my blush together to just kind of, or give like a subtle glow with the highlighter and the blush as well. But I find it very similar. Where, did I lose it? Oh, here it is. So yeah, obviously they're not color dupes and all. So here they are, and this one's the Hourglass, and then this right here is the Physicians Formula. But then once spread out, here's the swatches of them, and you can kind of see they're very close. So I finally pretty much do the same thing on the skin, and it's just kind of nice to have that very subtle glow, and it doesn't look powdery. Again, that's the number one thing that I hate about drugstore powder products, is the fact that they look powdery. So if it doesn't look powdery, then I'm all about it. So that's the number one. And then the second one is the BB Beauty Balm Bronze Booster. And this is in the shade Light to Medium again. And it's a super light bronzer. And this in the winter just kind of warms up the face a little bit. It's kind of neutral though. It's not warm, it's not cool. And the reason I like this is because, again, it does not, especially in the winter when my skin feels more dry, since it's a powder, it doesn't look like a powder on the skin. And I think these are supposed to have something in it to kind of help hydrate the skin. And I really do think that it does. It doesn't feel all that amazing like when you're swatching it, and this is actually probably the color of my skin right now. Yeah, it's pretty close. But it's just smooth. Again, doesn't look powdery. So there it is. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. But I think it's really nice. And I kind of find that a lot of your higher end bronzers, and even at the drugstore, are overly pigmented. And I feel like that can make for a hot mess on the face, especially if you have more dent or cheap brushes, which I tend to have cheap brushes. So I feel like this is one of those like no fail, it's never going to look cakey, and you can gradually like add it to the skin, and it's not going to look drying or anything like that. So this is just really nice to have in the winter to kind of add a little bit of warmth or just life back into the skin. Alright, so now I'm going to talk eyes, and I don't have a ton of drugstore eye products because I find that if you buy higher end palettes and things like that, you get a really good value that way. So generally at the drugstore, especially now with them coming out with their palettes that are, you know, close to $20, I just find that I'm just going to stick with high-end eyeshadow. I feel like they perform a lot better. But the ones that I do have that perform like high-end powders are these, and they're by the Maybelline Eye Studio. I only have one left because I got rid of the other ones because I felt like their colors weren't that inventive, and I kind of feel that a lot of the times at the drugstore, like the color combinations aren't that good. But I love this one, and it's an Olive Martini, in which I think you can still purchase it on All Cosmetics Wholesale, but this was a limited edition fall quad from like 3 years ago. But these powders have the same exact texture as the Lancome powders do, and I have the Lancome, what is this, blush, and the powder texture is identical, even though, you know, this is a blush, but it's just one of those super creamy sorts of finely milled powders. It feels like silk. And so I find that the texture of these are the same. A lot of drugstore eyeshadows are kind of, again, with the whole pigment, when they are pigmented, they're full of talc and they look powdery on the skin. Or if they're like a glittery sort of shade, they make the eyelids look crepey and dry looking, and these don't. I think the quality of these are amazing. I just wish that they had more variety, more of a, you know, better colors and things like that. So these are definitely the best at the drugstore, and I just wish they made more. Okay, and now I have some sorts of eye pencil things, and these are by Melon, and these are amazing. I actually think these are better than the Tarte Smolder Eyes, because I had some of those and they started getting dry and stuff after a while. Like this one right here didn't really stay smooth. I'm trying to use it up, but it didn't really stay smooth while it's pigmented, and it doesn't really blend that well. Like I have to work really hard to blend this. But these by Melon are amazing. These are called the Shadow Eyes, and they're 12-hour wear eyeshadows. And I have the shades Brown Deluxe, Sand Dunes, Espresso Line, and Almond Cream. And I have Almond Cream on today. Ooh, I also didn't mention, I have, mixed with other eyeshadows, I have this shade and this shade on today. I have this all over the lid on top of like a grayed brown eyeshadow, and then I have this as like a base color all over. They're very smooth, very nice. But anyway, I have this on under the eyeshadows. And this is just one of those perfect things, like you can see how creamy it is. It doesn't tug on the eyes. That you can, it kind of cancels out the eye. And I was using a MAC paint pot in, what was it? I don't know. It wasn't in soft ochre. It was Painterly. And it looked too pink on my eyes, so I gave that away. This kind of leans a little bit more neutral, so it looks a lot better, I think, on my eyes. And anyway, this had replaced that, and I absolutely love this. And then again, this is Espresso Line, and you can kind of see super, super nice. And then again, they blend, and then once they're set, they're set. And then this right here is Sand Dunes, which this is one that I use as a topper. It's kind of glittery, and I don't go for a ton of glittery shadows, but I like the fact that it's in a pencil because I don't get the fallout that I get a lot of with other shadows. So if I want a little bit of glitter on the lid, I can apply this over anything and I don't get fallout from it. So I'll put it right here so you can kind of see. But it's shimmery with little specks of glitter, so kind of, if I spread it out, you can kind of see the glitter. And this last one is Brown Deluxe, and it's like the most beautiful reddened bronze, and I will put it up here. So these are all super creamy, super nice. They actually beat out a lot of the high-end ones, and I believe they're like around the, I don't know, $5 or $6 mark, I'm not sure, but they're pretty inexpensive compared to like these, which are normally like 20 something from Tarte. And then I have one eyeliner to talk about, and this is the Rimmel Scandalize, and this is in taupe. And I love running this along the bottom lash line to kind of give like that depth under the eye. But these are super creamy, and it blends well, and it stays put. You can kind of see right there. These are better than the Urban Decay liners, but the thing is, there are certain colors. I've had 3 different colors. I've had this one, their brown one, and then their nude one. I didn't like the tone of the nude one, but I feel like it did a really good job. I just didn't like the tone. And again, I wish they just came out with more colors of these because they're really nice and inexpensive, but they blend and then they stay put. They stay a lot better than the Urban Decay liners do. So I really like these. Okay, so the last category I want to talk about are lip products. And I have quite a few, and that's probably because very rarely do I splurge on lip products because I don't wear a ton of lip products. I prefer balms and stuff to keep my lips comfortable. I have like one lip liner that I wear with everything, and then I just don't splurge on lipsticks. Like I have a few nice lipsticks, but most of my lipsticks actually come like in kits, like with something else. Like I'm not a lipstick person. But there are some from the drugstore that I think perform very nice, and I want to share those with you. So these are from the L'Oreal Collection Privé, and where they have like different celebrities endorsing like their different shade. And I think they have a nude line and they have a red line. And I have 3 of them, but these 2 are my favorites. And this is the Eva Longoria and the J-Lo. There's a lot of dimension to these colors. It's not just like looking at it, it looks like a nude, but if you look really close, it's got like, I don't want to say like a pearl finish because it's very little, but it's got like a small shift of color. So there's just, they've added dimension to it to where they're super wearable, super nice. They feel great on the lips. They look good. The one thing I will say though, L'Oreal lipsticks have that smell that I've mentioned before. Smells like the inside of my great-grandmother's car, which was like Kleenex and baby powder. I don't like that scent. Well, It reminds me of my great-grandmother, so I like it. But it's not something that I want to put on my lips. And then this is Ava's Nude. By the way, the smell goes away though once you do it. And then this one is just a little bit deeper, and it also has the dimension, like a small shift to it. But here they are together. And they're just gorgeous. They're like the perfect nudes for me. And then I have two lip pencil, well, three lip pencil things. But these first two are by Sonia Kashuk, and these are the Velvety Matte Lip Crayons. And they're both velvety matte lip crayons, but they think they switched it over from the white to the black packaging. And I have Berry Nude and I have Blossomy Nude. So they're all like nude, but they are like different nudes. These are the most wearable matte lips that I've ever used. I absolutely love these, and I don't know why people aren't talking more about these because they're gorgeous. But here we have the, what is this? Berry Nude. So here, whoops, here is the Berry Nude right here. And then the Blossomy Nude right here. And these are just super wearable. When they do start to fade, they don't fade off weird. They're just, and they just go on, like, you could probably see, like, very smooth. Like, these are gorgeous. So, not sure why people don't talk about them. And then if you're able to snag this on clearance, I've seen them on clearance everywhere. And it kind of makes me sad. I hope they're not getting rid of them. But these are the CoverGirl Lip Perfection Jumbo Gloss Bombs. And my favorite shade is in 225. And this is like, it leans a little bit purple. But anyway, it adds life to the lips. And they feel great on the lips. Like, I just feel like nobody talked about this either, obviously. And then here is the shade. But I'll put a little bit of it on now. And I put it towards the center of the lip for that whole ombre effect that like they're doing now. And I usually have like a nude liner on the outside, and then I just put this on the center. But it just feels so good on the lips. So I'm sad if they're getting rid of this, because this is actually like one of the only drugstore sorts of like jumbo pencils that they all started coming out with them. These are my favorites. They don't have a staining effect like the Revlon ones did, and I liked that at first until I realized that they started staining in different colors, and then I was over it and I thought it was awful. But this is like the closest thing to a Clinique chubby pencil, like chubby stick, that is out there. So that's good. Okay, so I have some lip glosses to talk about, and this first one is by Revlon, and this is their Super Lustrous Lip Gloss and Super Natural. And again, like, I obviously have like a very narrow-minded sort of color scheme for my favorite lip colors, if you haven't noticed, and favorite lip products. But this is just like the perfect, like, your lips sort of gloss. And I'll put some on. And there it is. Like, absolutely love this stuff. It's great. The texture is really nice. It's not sticky. It feels moisturizing. And you can just wear it with anything. So absolutely love this. And then the next three glosses are very similar to each other. And I think it's because they're like sister companies. But I have the Maybelline glosses right here. And these are the Elixir by the Color Sensational, the Elixirs. And I have shades 60 and 65. 60 is Nude. I think it's like, yeah, Nude Illusion. And then 65 is Caramel Infused. So again, same color family. But these feel, and I'll show you, like the applicator isn't the same, but these have the very same gloss feel. It's kind of like a balmy sort of gloss, like the Lancome Gloss in Love. I absolutely love this, but the texture is the same on the lips. The applicators are different. The applicators of these I find to be quite strange. They're kind of fuzzy, and it's kind of like a Muppet finger, like rubbing gloss onto your lips, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't, but if you can see how like fuzzy the applicator looks, it's kind of like a Muppet with like gloss in their finger, just rubbing it on your lips. But super balmy and just nice feeling. And they just feel so comfortable, very wearable. And then the other one is the, what is this? L'Oreal, and this is in Rose Melody. Same sort of nudie your lips thing, and again, it's a little different texture, but it's still a fuzzy applicator. And I find that this one does not feel as balmy as the Maybelline. This is a slightly thinner texture, kind of closer to the YSL, that kind of have like that wet sort of texture, but not quite. It's like a mix between this and the YSL, if that makes sense. It's like a wetter texture, and then here you go. That's what it looks like on the hand. But the texture, they're just so comfortable. They feel nice. They're not sticky. They feel like a balm, pretty much. That's everything I had to share with you. Of course, I've mentioned things in my favorites before that were from the drugstore, but I find these are drugstore products that actually perform like high-end products, to where if the packaging was exactly the same, I would not be able to tell the difference between them. There are great drugstore products out there that I haven't mentioned. It's just that I don't want to put forth the effort and the money into trying them all just to know that I'm going to throw like 3/4 of them out, if that makes any sense. And I know a lot of people get upset when you make videos like this, because I made a video a long time ago called like drugstore products that don't suck, and a lot of people were like very offended by that, and I'm sorry if that offends people, but I just find that I feel like I waste a lot more money at the drugstore than I do, like for every like 10 drugstore powders I buy, it's like I find one that's good, where I could have just like bought one really nice high-end powder that I would be using, if that makes sense. So just kind of like that sort of thought behind it, to where if you were on a budget and you were looking for something that performs like a high-end product, then maybe you might find some of these and really enjoy them, and I hope I explained why I like them enough. If you prefer like tons of pigment, a lot of these aren't going to be for you. If you prefer like full coverage, again, that sort of deal, that's not going to be for you, because I prefer everything to look like dewy and natural. But if you have like the same skin type as me, since a lot of this sort of thing is like objective to what your skin type is and like your skin issues and all that stuff. But if you have similar skin type to me, or if you are aging like I am and you don't want things that are going to settle into like fine lines and wrinkles, these are all really great products for that. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you have any suggestions for products to try, leave them below. I know I didn't hit every single category. That's because in a lot of makeup categories, I couldn't really find anything that I absolutely loved, and I didn't want to like just put something in to fill in a category. So yeah, just let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!